This is the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Mia Farrow as Allison Mackenzie, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliott Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington.
For many weeks, Doctors Hospital in Peyton Place has cared for Allison Mackenzie. Allison, the victim of a hit-run accident, has failed to recognize Elliott Carson as her father. To Allison, Elliott has been Mr. Carson. But in the view of Dr. Michael Rossi of the hospital staff, the time has come to tell the patient Elliott's true identity.
Look at me. Elliott Carson is your father. Elliott Carson is married to your mother. They were married in the spring.
You mean stepfather?
No, Allison, I don't mean that. The picture on the mantel wasn't a picture of your father. Elliott Carson was in love with your mother a long time ago, before you were born. It's because of that love that you were born. He was condemned and sent away to prison, wrongly, for killing his wife. Then he got out of prison and he proved his innocence and married your mother.
No, I don't believe you. You're trying some kind of experiment, trying to shock me,
Allison,
trying to confuse me.
Listen to me. Elliott Carson is your father.
My mother.
Your mother told you all about Elliott.
When?
Almost a year ago. Allison, you see, when Elliott Carson was here at the hospital, your mother thought he was going to die, and so she wanted you to know the truth.
Go on. Go on, tell me everything.
All right, you attended the wedding ceremony.
No.
You and your mother and your father have been living together for over 6 months.
Oh. And I wanted to go home.
The accident has caused a kind of a short circuit in your mind. You remember some things, but the things you forget are very selective.
Aren't you through yet?
Why do you think you block it out?
Blank walls, blank, blank, blank,
Allison.
blank, blank.
It's the illegitimacy of birth that troubles you, isn't it?
There's lots of things I've forgotten.
All right. What's the color of the curtains in your bedroom?
Yellow.
Yes, and the name of the teacher in your 3rd grade.
Miss Whitman.
You see, we could go on and discover that you remember everything pleasant. But you have forgotten all the things that caused you pain. The circumstances of birth no one has any control over. And yet you feel a deep, destructive shame about that. You have no reason to feel ashamed. The facts of your birth can't make you any less valuable or less lovable a person than you are. You have to learn to live with that again. Allison.
No! I don't want to hear one more word. One more miserable, filthy word. I'm going, and don't tell me I have to stay. I don't have to do anything.
Allison.
No more. No more.
Listen, don't you see? Now we can deal with it. Now we can help you. All right. Your mother's still here. I'll send her in to see you.
No. I don't want to see her again. Ever. Or him. Ever.
Where have you been? Well, what kind of a greeting is that? Do you get some kind of kick out of putting me through a ringer?
Well, I see you're doing your research. Good man.
You know, I thought you jumped bail last night.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. Your father was up on ours. We were all frantic. Why didn't you leave a message?
Well, I didn't see any reason to. I knew I wasn't going to jump bail. I figured you did, too.
All right. Tell your old weary counselor what happened.
Well, last night at midnight, I turned 21. Today is my birthday.
Oh.
Thanks.
Well, that happens to all of us. Happy birthday.
Stephen, I just had to have a good time. I think you know what I mean. I wanted to meet a girl. Any girl. I went to Ada Jack's Tavern.
And?
That's all.
It just didn't work out.
She knew who I was.
I'm sorry, Rod. I really am sorry. When I had my 21st birthday, I was very much involved with a girl who was working in the law library. We were in love. She was beautiful. Only trouble was I didn't want any part of marriage. Then, the timing was wrong. You know, I guess being 21 means being dissatisfied, no matter what you've got, no matter where you're heading.
You know something, Stephen? If one more person gives me a philosophic comment on life, liberty, or the pursuit of anything, the top of my head is going to come off.
You caught me without a present. You had your right to go to Ada Jack's, but something happened last night.
Yes, I know. Gus Chernock died.
You're affected.
Stephen, I'm affected by anything that happens in this town. If a leaf falls in Peyton Square, I've got to rake it up. I guess this throws a lot of sympathy Stella's way, doesn't it?
I'm afraid so. Gus died in your grandfather's living room.
Oh, boy. Tell me something. Isn't it possible that all of this emotion can backfire? I mean, just how much can you stack the deck against me? Isn't there a point of no return with this stuff? I mean, won't people say to themselves, wait a minute, this guy Rodney Harrington, he can't be that bad.
That's possible, sure.
But we have to be realistic, don't we?
Yes.
And being realistic, we know that the Chernock family have the sympathy of the town.
Right.
And the jury.
Look, they're just people, Rod. They can't build a wall around themselves. They're going to hear about this, and their civic pride's going to say you mustn't pay any attention to it. But they're going to pay attention. Because they're just people.
Oh, Stella.
What about her?
Stephen, she amazes me. You know, if she lived in another time, they'd drag her off to Salem and try her as a witch.
Yeah, I've thought about that often. Here's to the 20th century.
Well, anyway, I'm tired. I'm going to go to my room, see if I can get some sleep.
Yes? Lawrence? What have you found out?
For you?
Yeah. Cold enough for you, Sergeant?
Might even get hotter. Martin Peyton made quite a statement about Gus Chernock's death.
Oh?
I can't see where it's going to help Stella Chernock's testimony in the Harrington trial. I thought you might want to look it over before I take it over to him signed.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant.
You know, he claims that Gus broke into the house intending to kill him. No ifs, buts, or maybes.
Yeah, so I see. Oh, it's pretty hard to prove this now.
Yeah, it's harder to disprove it.
Well, I don't see any use in making out such a big case against a dead man. Maybe when you take this up to Mr. Peyton, you could suggest to him that he...
Hey, Sarge!
Where are you calling from, ma'am? Would you speak louder, please? I can't hear you.
Yeah, this is Sergeant Goddard. We got a long-distance call on 3809. Would you find out where it's coming from, please?
What about Allison McKenzie?
How is she?
Well, she's up and around, but she's not out of the hospital yet. Would you give me your name, please? Miss. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Would you tell me who's calling? Miss.
Oh, well, you wouldn't know me.
Are you a friend of Miss Mackenzie's family?
No,
Would you like for me to give them a message for you?
no, I just wanted to know if they found the person who'd hit her.
No, not yet. The case is still open. Miss? 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 Any luck, Sergeant?
Did her voice mean anything to you?
No, sir. I couldn't have recognized my own mother's voice. It's a bad connection.
Yeah? Yeah, thank you, operator.
Did you get anything?
She called from San Francisco, public telephone booth. I always figured it was a summer tourist.
Well, at least we know where to look for her.
Oh, for what? An unidentified woman in the 6th largest city in the United States? We haven't got a prayer. We might as well consider the case closed. You better get up to the Peyton's house with this statement.
That won't be necessary. I thought I could just as well come down here and sign it. Do you have it ready, Sergeant?
Won't you sit down, Mr. Peyton?
Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
I looked it over.
Of course. Good work. You ought to be commended, Sergeant.
Thanks, Mr. Peyton.
I'll sign it just as it stands, Mr. Fowler.
Well, that's Sergeant Goddard's province, Mr. Peyton, not mine. But before you do sign it, there are a few points I think need clarification.
Just as it stands, Mr. Fowler.
Well, it's purely a matter of the wording. What we have to get to is the basic truth.
Why don't you say what you mean? You want me to soften it. But these are facts, and you can't soften facts except by lying about them, or watering them down until they're meaningless.
Mr. Peyton, you can't prosecute a dead man.
No, but you can prevent him from becoming a convenient martyr in the hands of a skilled attorney.
I was only suggesting this out of consideration for Chernak's family. I see no reason to make his widow suffer needlessly.
Nor do I. Needlessly. Martin Peyton.
Thank you, Mr. Peyton.
Had Gus Chernak lived, I'd have had a strong case against him for damage at the mill.
But would you have pressed it at the risk of hurting your grandson?
It's a curious question coming from a public prosecutor. I was raised to believe that right was right, wrong was wrong. That those who broke the law deserve to be punished.
Sometimes there are mitigating circumstances.
Mitigating circumstances. That seems to be the motto these days. If a well-to-do youngster indulges in vandalism, it's because his parents didn't pay him enough attention. Understand this, Mr. Fowler. If Rodney were guilty, I'd ask no quarter for him.
Rodney is guilty.
In your hopeful opinion. Suppose the situation were reversed. If Joe Chernak had managed to kill my grandson, would you prosecute this pitiful victim of environment, this social outcast, with the same merciless enthusiasm?
Of course.
I doubt it. My grandson's trial was an obvious political windfall for you. If Gus Chernak had succeeded in killing me, how many votes do you think his conviction would bring you? Or would you be politically astute enough to ask for mercy, to remind the jury of what you have already referred to as mitigating circumstances?
I'd try the case on the basis of its merit, as I always have, not on the basis of any personal consideration.
On its merit. A man who could find merit in Stella Chernak's lies would find it wherever it's most convenient. She never would have fooled me with her stories. But perhaps in your shoes, I'd have wanted to be fooled.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Fowler. It's Clarion office. I promised him a copy of Mr. Peyton's statement.
Give it to the newspaper by all means, Sergeant.
Tell him he can have it.
Yeah, you can pick it up anytime you like. Right. Goodbye.
I wish you a good day, Mr. Peyton.
And I wish you a good day, Mr. Fowler. It's been most interesting. Another one of my antiquated beliefs. Free press